By now, you should have your free guide in hand, and hopefully you've spent some time browsing it and getting familiar with some of these pages, and you've started to carve out some time to dig into this project and also recognize that this could be an opportunity to have a little fun. So I've mentioned this already, and I'm going to continue to mention it because I do think it is hugely important, and I want you to hold on to the idea that you are familiar with storytelling, that you have the skills to do this already, whether you recognize it or not. It's really common for us to tell ourselves stories like, I'm a bad writer, I'm a bad storyteller, I'm bad at public speaking, I'd rather not share. And maybe some of those things are true, maybe it's not your favorite thing in the world, but I guarantee you have the skills and you're very familiar. Truth be told, I was so shy in kindergarten, my teacher didn't even know my name. And I went on to take public speaking, not once, not twice, but 3 times because I was so terrified of the whole idea. And now I do it routinely. So the world is weird, and we all have the skills. You have been digesting these stories. You've been digesting stories of all kinds since you were an infant, and you've been telling stories since you could speak. None of this is new to you. And so I just want you to hold on to that as you move forward. So to get started, I want to briefly introduce this narrative arc, which you can find in your guide. This arc is pretty standard across all stories, whether those are movies, books, podcasts, advertisements, or even just the stories that you're swapping with your friends about the wild night you had. So that arc always builds with, or starts rather, with building the setting. So you're establishing what that looks like, some history, you're introducing the characters. And then you start to move up to the rising action, getting into some more details of what's ahead, what does life look like in this setting. Maybe that's Laramie, maybe that's more broad, maybe that's global, maybe it's a certain population of folks. It's going to vary business to business. And all of this rising action builds up to this point, which is the point of conflict. So in works of fiction, oftentimes this conflict looks big and dramatic and wild. That probably isn't the case. Maybe it is. It probably isn't the case for you. Perhaps your conflict is something as simple as your town doesn't have access to a certain kind of cuisine. There isn't a restaurant that serves a certain type of food, and that's a problem. Or maybe your town doesn't have access to an outdoor shop that allows you to rent materials or to test out materials, and you're forced to either go out of town or to shop online and take that risk. That's also a conflict. Not big and scary, still a problem. So all of this here gets introduced here at the peak of this graph, the top of this mountain, and then we work towards the resolution. So across the board, regardless of what business you're in, regardless of what the conflict is, you are the resolution. You, your business, the service you offer, the product you sell, you are the knight in shining armor. And so that is important to remember in any story you tell, whether that's an advertisement, a video, some written text. You are the resolution in this story. Hey, that's the one part that I can tell you for sure in all of this. So go ahead and take a piece of scratch paper and maybe draw this mountain, this graph, and start to plot out these points on your business, starting with that rising action and introduction phase, really digging into the history, why you started your business, what that looked like, and then moving up, identifying the conflict that you're solving and establishing what all these points look like for you and your business.